What if the biggest thing holding your business back isn't your strategy, but your mindset? Today's guest helps business owners, executives, and leaders uncover the blind spots that kept them stuck and teaches them how to create lasting growth from the inside out. Carly Pepin is an international speaker, consultant, and co founder of the West Coast Growth Advisors. For more than 15 years, she has helped organizations improve leadership, strengthen culture, increase profitability, and build teams that thrive. Her work focuses on five key areas of growth: people, strategy, execution, cash flow, and mindset. Because true success happens when all of them work together. If you're looking to grow your business, become a stronger leader, or create more fulfilling life, this conversation is for you. Please join me in welcoming Carly Pepin. Let's get into it. Hello, Carly, and thank you for joining the Influence Exchange today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, JV. I'm looking forward to this.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. So, Carly, you are an international speaker and consultant, and you co share your business called the West Coast Growth Advisors. Let's talk to us a little bit about what the company does and what you do for a living.
Yeah, so it's business coaching, leadership coaching, and then we also do employee engagement. And I have been in this business for 15 years. And I started actually creating this with my husband in this way, um, like not long after we met, honestly, before we were married. So it was like a year after we met. We really resonated with each other,
Yeah,
which is good.
that is
So
good.
yeah, and, yeah, it's been really fun. So we were both in the coaching industry before we met. Obviously, we had a lot that we resonated with, so we decided to join forces, and that's been really great. We do the business coaching where we help people work on their culture, and we help them, understand their hiring, their culture, how to align their mission, vision, purpose with their strategy and what that looks like in integrating it with their cultures so they can have a stronger workforce. We also do help them with the strategy dynamics. We help them with operations to see where maybe there's any bottlenecks in operations, where things are getting jammed up, and also cash flow, which is one of my favorite because it's so
Yes.
important, but it's so exciting when a business can create more profits to be able to invest in themselves, the company, and also sometimes the owners. Sometimes even the owners don't have a significant quantity of cash flow, and that can be hard to work for not too much. So we do those sort of things. As far as the leadership coaching, it just depends on what a leader requires. Oftentimes we're working with the CEOs, but sometimes if a CEO really values personal development and growth, they'll invest in some one-on-one leadership coaching with their team, which is also really inspiring. So we help them within their job, the problems that they're having at the office, but sometimes problems at home because sometimes things are really stressful at home and is interfering with their day-to-day at work and what they really enjoy. And then the employee engagement stuff is really fun. I mean, it's probably one of our favorites too, is we love not just getting employees to engage, but having them feel really inspired and fulfilled working at the companies that they're at. It's easier to get engagement and get people to do things, but it's harder to make them actually wake up and be like, I can't wait to go to work. Like today I get
Right.
to go to work. So my husband and I have a special dynamic that we add to our engagement to make sure that people show up really happy, you
Sure.
know? Yeah, so those are the core things of what we do.
Yeah. And you nailed a few things that I would like to talk about. First and foremost, you have the five pillars of growth. So we're going to talk about that in a few. But you mentioned something interesting about culture and even waking up in the morning, either A, being excited to go to work, or B, oh, I want the day to end. So, what is the ideal culture for a successful organization?
Yeah, so ideally, here's the interesting part. We see cultures that are successful that don't have we see businesses, they're successful, they don't have a great culture, right? And we hear about them online. We hear
Yeah.
employees, you go to Glassdoor and you're like, this sounds awful. And people still work there and it's a successful company. But the reason that you want a successful culture is because those are not the companies that the top talent is wanting to go to.
Mhm.
You know, the top talent is going to be drawn in and attracted by a culture that is inspiring to them. And they don't last long at companies with a bad culture. So if you have a culture that's not great, you have employees who are frustrated, angry, everyone's kind of not getting along, fighting with each other, everyone's got a different value system, then what winds up happening is the talent that is the most productive, most profitable, they leave and they go to the
Mhm.
place where they can really thrive. And that's the place with
Yeah,
a great culture. So,
absolutely.
yeah. And when we think about culture, it's it's a lot. Oh gosh, there's so much that goes into it. So I'm like trying to summarize it very efficiently, quickly.
Sure.
But basically, when we look at that, the vision of the company is actually imbued into the culture. So the vision of the company, the core values, everything is communicated. The strategy is communicated and understood, even where the company is at, whether it's profitable or not profitable, like everyone in the company knows and figuring out how to make that message land. Everyone's aligned with the core values of the company, everyone's aligned with the vision and mission, and everyone is inspired to actually follow those core values, right? So
Sure.
if someone has a core value on growth, which I was just talking to someone who has a core value in the company on growth, right? If they don't have individuals who are curious and looking for growth and looking to learn, they're not a fit for that culture,
Sure.
right? And so they're hiring based off culture. Sometimes they're firing based off culture. They really have it defined and they're really nurturing it through the day to day actions in how they support it, how they bring it forward, how they embody it, how they create events, activities,
Yes.
all these different dynamics around it. It seems like it's a lot of work, but then again, you're attracting the top talent, and every CEO, founder, owner I talk to who has a great culture, you'll hear them say it's actually really fun to listen to them. They'll just be like, "I love my team. I
Right.
can't do this without my team. I have the best team." And they'll say, "I feel like the luckiest person alive because I don't know how lucky I was to get this
Yeah.
team." And then I look at them and I'm like, "Well, you have a great culture. That's why
There you
you're
go.
so lucky."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's critical. In my 9 to 5, culture is extremely important. Just like you said, if the culture does not align, then either A, that individual, that employee is not fit for your mission, or B, there's something wrong with the organization, with their mission. So that's critical. And you mentioned cash flow, EBITDA. EBITDA critical, right? Because if you don't have EBITDA, then your business will lower their yearly income, right? Let's say. How is it important for a C-level person, CEO, to make sure that cash flow is coming in and the business is making their profit?
Yeah, well, the cash flow is really important because the interesting thing is we could have great, income and revenue, but we don't have any cash stores. We have no actual cash flow on the background. So when it's time to grow and scale and we want to grow our business, and let's say you're like, wow, like this is the time and I'd really like to hire a top tier, CMO, right? How
Sure.
much is that going to cost me? Oh man, I can't afford that, right? That's why we want to also focus on cash flow. Sometimes people like they can't even add that department or those teams because they don't have the cash flow. So cash flow is really important. It fuels, it funds your growth, and it gives you the opportunity sometimes to pivot, do different things, dynamics. You can always get investments, but I really don't suggest getting an outside investor unless it's strategically aligned.
Sure.
And I think the cool thing about having healthy cash flow is then you can decide, am I getting this investor because they're actually going to support me? Like sometimes people will go into a business and a group of businesses and they all feed off each other.
Right.
And that's a cool opportunity. Those are investors, acquisitions. That's a really cool opportunity for some founders and executives.
Mhm.
And sometimes they get it and they're like, well, I really get this mentorship from this person. And that's a really cool opportunity. But if you're just doing it because you don't have healthy cash flow, it's like, well, let's figure out why you don't have healthy cash flow.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't
Right.
want to give up a piece of your business if all you're getting is money and nothing else for it. And
Right.
so the cool thing about that too is I love how there's so many different levers that you can pull. Sometimes people think I should just make more money and make more sales and then I'll have more cash flow. That's not always true.
Right.
Sometimes we increase our sales and then all of a sudden it's like, well, then I have to make more product. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, we did so well with sales. I have to open another factory. And it's like, whoa, would it
Right.
have actually been better for you to just raise your prices 1 or 2% than actually go through all this trouble where it's costing you more to sell more versus if we just raised your prices here, even 1%, if we
Sure.
lowered your cost of goods and we could talk to vendors and lowered that 1%, like, would that have moved the needle more? And sometimes it significantly does. Oftentimes it actually does. So when you truly calculate the cost of revenue increase, increasing your product sales, sometimes if you're a service provider, it's increasing your time. It's like it actually isn't the best thing to increase sales. So when we think about cash flows, we want to think about the levers that really give you more access to actual liquidity other than like, let's just make more money and cross our fingers.
Sure. Sure. Thank you for that. And Carly, so I want to give you, let's play a little scenario for an audience member that's watching or listening to this episode. Let's say I'm a client of yours and I'm saying, Carly, I'm stuck. I'm not motivated. I need some coaching. Provide us some steps that you will take that individual and turn them around so they could be motivated and move forward in their career path.
Yeah, and I'll give you, like, a couple examples from
Sure.
real world experiences. I love those. I feel like those are
Yeah,
so
me too.
practically applicable. So with one individual, she came, she just wasn't motivated to expand her company, right? And she actually wanted to sell, and she was pulling in hundreds of thousands a month, right? So this is, an 8-figure a year business, and she's doing great.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you sure?" She was
Right.
really young, and I said, "What is your next step after this? Do you have something that you're inspired to go to?" There was nothing, and she's like, "Well, I think I'll just, like, take a break for a while." And knowing what I knew about this woman, she's not good at taking a break. So I was
Right.
like, "Let's check in and see what's really going on." The interesting thing is she had an unrealistic expectation to be the face of her company. She
Mm,
thought because of everything that was happening in the world at the time that she had to be the face of her company, and she didn't want to. And so she was like, "I'd rather close the business than take that next step." So really in that sense, it was
yeah.
like, let's just actually create a strategy, figure out a better way, a better marketing
Mhm.
plan to get your company out there. Let's find a new face, something that worked better. She actually started working with influencers,
Right.
before it got really popular, which
Sure.
was interesting. It was an idea we kinda came up with, but it was like, who is out there, who can promote your product, present your product that you think has a great audience that could meet it, and that's when she
Right.
started to, like, tap into the influencer market early on. And so it's cool because after we kinda did that work, we got to the next call, and I was like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "You still wanna sell your company?" And she goes,
Right.
"No." She goes, "I'm busier than I was before," but she goes, "I'm
Right.
having a really good time." And I was
That's
like,
great.
"Great."
Yeah.
So that's an
Yeah.
example of just having, like, the strategy off, but sometimes the strategy isn't off and you genuinely stop enjoying what you're doing. And I was working with this other individual, and he was, really starting to get uninspired again by the day-to-day. He's the CEO, founder of the company,
Sure.
has a couple hundred people there now, and he just was getting really uninspired by his day-to-day of working there, and he really actually wanted to get into consulting as well. And so for him, the strategy was, "All right, let's get you out of this business. What do you have to do now that you can't let go of until you
Sure.
can delegate it?" It was taking him some time to find a replacement
Right.
CEO for himself.
Right.
So
Wow.
we went through a couple processes. First, we actually understood his values, what's important to him,
Mm,
and we linked his daily job duties to what was truly important, the consulting. So, for example, it was like, how was running your company day to day? How was talking to human resources? How was working with marketing actually going to help you in your consulting practice? And we asked those questions until he could see that working at this company now and until the new CEO was
sure.
hired was actually inspiring and fulfilling. So that took a lot of the burnout out. And then we started to also, again, you wait for the CEO, but then simultaneously on the back end, it's like, let's put a strategy in place to make sure that when that CEO comes on board, you are ready to transfer and ready to go. So those are a couple of examples of just pulling out like different dynamics, whether it have been an internal dynamic, external
Mhm.
dynamic, where we work with strategy, we work with our mindset to be able to re-inspire and reinvigorate ourselves in a company.
Yeah, that's great. And it's critical, especially in the CEO level. That's your example there is a smooth transition. You got the replacement, and it seems like from your example, just smooth sailing from there, which is a great example. What are the biggest mistakes CEOs make when trying to scale their business?
Yeah, sometimes it's just trying to do it all by themselves.
Sure.
When someone thinks that they're like the main person with all the ideas, all the innovations, everything has to come from them. That's a very stressful place to be. And I kind of said it in the beginning when I mean, I love chatting with these successful founders and owners, and the ones who are most fueled by their business and have done so well
Sure.
scaling. They say constantly, they'll be like, "We're talking about it in the sense of this is what I did," and they say, "But let's make it clear, like, I can't do this without my team. I can't do this without my team."
Right,
So
right.
they're relying on the expertise of people smarter than them, hiring people smarter than them in the departments that they're in. You do not have to be the smartest person in the room as a
Mhm.
CEO. You just require the strategy, the vision, and being able to understand with your team how it's gonna be executed and learn how to let them take the lead, right? So that is a huge component. I see a lot of CEOs, executive founders kind of get stuck and bogged down in the weeds. They have a really hard time delegating and a really hard time kind of stepping out of that dynamic and moving forward. And a lot of it too is processes. I will tell you, it's amazing to see how many times I talk to individuals and they're really stuck and they're having these problems and I look at it and I'm like, "This is a process problem."
Yeah, right.
I was
Yeah,
talking to someone, they get great employees and their culture they don't have an established culture, but it
mhm,
naturally attracts sort of these sort of individuals that have entrepreneurial spirits, and so because of that, as their company grows, they've had to seek outside their community to get new employees who don't
sure.
have the entrepreneurial spirit. So they're coming in expecting everyone to be self-starters, and
Mhm.
nobody's a self-starter, and
No,
they don't have any onboarding process, they don't have any training process, they're just sort of expecting it all to happen naturally because they got lucky when they were smaller and they hired from a community of, like,
right.
entrepreneurial spirits.
Sure, yeah,
It's like,
yeah, it's
"You guys need a
yeah,
process.
exactly.
You need training, you need
Right.
onboarding," and I was like, "I promise you, just,
Mhm.
like, let's put it into action. I promise you,
Yeah.
you are gonna be so much happier with your employees," and I was like, "Let's define the culture,
Mhm.
let's figure out what you're looking for, so when you're hiring, you're not just, like, hiring because this person is potentially a good opportunity, but, like, they also match the culture and you know that they're gonna be trainable." So it's interesting because as CEOs and founders, we get really stuck in the weeds. Even
Right.
in my own business, like I'll get stuck in my own weeds. I have my
Okay.
own business coaches outside. I have someone who I love speaking with because it's like I get stuck in my weeds. I'm in the day to day. I can't see outside like my own dynamics sometimes because I'm just functioning in my job role on a day to day basis.
Sure.
And we really get stuck in the weeds there. So, and that's why, again, like your executive team is also, I like to think of them as a board and respected advisors. So if you're not hiring people that are smarter than you and are willing to challenge you and that you can have some healthy conflict with, you're not going to have a great team that's going to really push you to grow.
Of course. Great advice. Thank you.
Mhm.
Burnout. Burnout in any business is critical and huge. And a lot of people, CEOs, VPs, even an average employee, will feel burnt out deep inside, but will not say anything. What is your advice and recommendations to shake that burnout, motivate yourself, inspire yourself to work the next day and make your life better in a workplace?
Yeah, so this is fun. It kind of links to something that I was chatting about before. So burnout all managed differently depending on where you are in the company, right? If
Sure.
you're an employee and you're burning out, for one, it's also great to check and because especially if you have a company with a great culture, are you in the right seat? Sometimes operationally you've taken on more than maybe you bargained for, but there's certain areas that you hadn't done before. Like maybe you were in sales and you started doing some marketing and you're thriving in the marketing side, but you suck at the sales side,
Sure.
right? And when I say suck, you just don't like it. Like you're
Yeah.
burnt out by the sales. That's a real indicator as an employee that you're not in the right seat. If you're thriving in one spot, then it's like, okay, let's talk to the manager, the owner, whoever is the leader in that area, and let's see if I can get myself in the right seat. And that's something for managers and leaders also to notice about their employees as well is, are they in the right seat? Because they may just be burning out because they're not doing a job that inspires them and there's a job there that inspires them. Um, Other ways to do it, I talked a little about our intrinsic values.
Mhm.
When you go to work, most people don't have a value on work, on business. If you did, you're probably going to be the owner. You're going to be the
Sure.
CEO. You're going to be one of the executives. You're going to be the person who's busting their butt every day and wants to keep moving up, up, up. Usually, the A players are the individuals that are having a value on work in that way. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't. That's totally
Sure.
normal.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. So you may love your family. You may love soccer. You may love surfing. You may love yoga. You may love art, you may love fashion, whatever you love. Let's say you love fashion and you're showing up every day and you're in a corporate sales job, right? You're probably bored out of your mind. So, yeah, bored out of your mind.
True. Yeah.
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 So if I sit there and ask a question that you don't have any answers to, which is why you're feeling burnt out, is how does actually you in your sales job, how
Mhm.
does you tracking and, making cold outreach calls help you with your fashion? If you can't answer that question, guess what? You are going to be bored out of your mind. So
Yeah.
whenever we're doing employee engagement, we actually find out what's truly important, the intrinsic value to the employee, and then we sit and we link all the job duties to that. And, they'll come up with some ideas, but my husband and I are usually there to help push it along because I know sometimes it can be
Yeah.
hard to find those answers.
Perfect.
But it's like, all right, let's actually find those ways. And then all of a sudden, when I make enough links as to why, let's say, fashion helps you with making cold calls, all of a sudden you look at me and you're like, I would love to do cold calling because now I see
Mhm.
how it supports what's really important to me. So that's how we handle burnout when we're looking at someone on the employee level. When you look at manager level as well, we'll usually focus. We'll have them do that linking process as well, one on one. But on a managerial level, it's a little bit different too because they also might be burning out from things, and this goes for the CEO and the founder as well, that they just shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Maybe they've taken on a role that is actually supposed to be in another department. Their department might have expanded. They might need to take on new employees, new hires. It's time to delegate some tasks out, which now sometimes we delegate to AI, right? So when
Of
we're
course.
looking at managerial executives, we're not just looking at the same dynamics as the employee, but we're also now saying, hey, are there things to take off your plate? Who can we delegate this to? Because now you've overburdened yourself with too much. And that happens a lot in growing companies. They start to over compartmentalize all these things that they're doing into their jobs, forgetting, oh, we grew. It's time for me to take on a new person.
Right.
Oh, we grew. We actually need another department for this.
Yeah.
And sometimes people forget, like, eventually you're like, I actually need an IT department now. We didn't have IT. We don't have IT. We need IT
You
now.
need
This
it.
is
Yeah.
crazy.
Right.
So sometimes little things like that happen. So it's a little bit different for the managers and the executives, but we'll still do that intrinsic value linking as well, just because it's so valuable and so important, and everyone has a unique set of values and things that they're driven towards. So yeah, we really love to focus on those things.
I love that. And I'm going to say a small business. Let's use that example right now. A CEO says, okay, we need to scale our business 20% for next year, then 30, then the 5-year plan is 40%, let's say. What are the tools or process or mindset behind it to reach those goals?
First off, I wanna understand their strategy, right? If they don't have a strategy, we have to figure out, like, what specifically that looks like. Sometimes I was just talking to a company, they did a complete pivot, right? So when they looked at the expansion, they realized that they weren't gonna be able to expand in the market that they were, because
Sure.
they were doing SaaS, and with AI coming out, they realized, like, they had to make the shift to be agentic, right? So it was really quite fascinating because that was part of the strategy is on the back end. That's what they had to do. That's where they were going. So then to do that, their process looks different than someone else's who might be saying with the same product, same service, they were hiring more research and development first
Mhm.
and then moving into their marketing and sales. But they really needed research and development first to ensure that they shifted and transitioned their product into an agentic product, right? So it's going to differ with each person. But for example, if you're sticking with the same product, it's like, well, what are you actually doing to either sell that product, sell that service? Are you sticking with your current market? Are you guys looking to go into a new market? And then again, it's like if you're going into that new market, all of a sudden, now you're doing brand awareness,
Right.
right? Now
Right.
I'm talking to the marketing team. How are
Yes.
we going to get brand awareness? And I mean, I love this about business. Like, we can ask these blanket questions, but then once you dive into a
Mhm.
business, it's so fun to
Sure.
see how unique they are. It's like a thumbprint. Like each person, each business is so unique and different. It's so fun to see, like, what are we actually focusing on here? What are we actually sticking with? What are we actually letting go of? Where are the hard choices to be made? And sometimes, even in growing in a company, I've seen where it's like we can't grow with this culture, right?
Sure.
Where the culture is actually holding them back. And because they didn't define their culture, I remember talking to one person who they're like, we had a person because we didn't define our culture. We hired an executive, and I'm telling you, like, it almost took our business down. And I was like,
Mm.
what? And so
Wow.
I know it's amazing. They told
Yeah.
me the story and they said as soon as they redefined the culture, they let that person go. And they said the next day it was night and day. It was like a breath of fresh air for everyone. Things kind of went back to normal. And so sometimes it's like we need to focus on culture to get
Sure.
you those A players to get to where you're wanting to go. So it's really cool.
Wow.
It's cool because whoever's listening to this, it's like, what is the strategy? What am I really doing? And what's my personal next step? What's the real bottleneck in my company? It could be a multitude of things, but once you figure that out, then it's like, okay, that's the bottleneck. That's where I'm stuck. Now, how do I correct that? How do I fix that? And I
Of
think that's the
course.
cool thing about like businesses and then getting to see it come to life after you
Right.
put things in place.
Right. Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to strategize to market your business and scale it up to your percentage, whatever you want to grow. That's great.
Mhm.
So, what exactly is the five pillars for growth?
Yeah. So we talk about people, strategy, execution, cash, and then we dive into our mindset as well, right? We have been human behavior specialists at our core through and through
Yeah.
forever. And we've added business strategy as well, which we know is so important. So we do not work without focusing on mindset too.
Yeah.
When we think about people, we focus on our culture. When we think about strategy, it's kind of like a breakdown of what I just shared with you, right?
Sure.
Where it's like, what is the true strategy and where are we going and what are we doing? And then we kind of put that into operations and our processes in place to be able to manage our culture, our people, our top hires, to be able to manage our strategy, right? Is everything working and functioning there? And at the core and on bottom of all this, too, is
Sure.
like, how is our cash flow? Are we healthy? Right? Can we afford to do this? Can we afford to continue to grow? What does that look like long term? And then the mindset dynamic is it's really important because all of this we talk about, like it is so fun and it is so exciting. But when you're in it, I was just talking to a CEO, he's like, it's also awful. And I was
Right.
like,
Right.
it is also
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
So that's why the mindset component is really important. We talk about letting people go, but if you let someone, and this has happened so many times, I just had to work with someone, he let someone go on his management team. It was one of the C-suite executives that have been
Mhm.
there for 15 years,
Wow.
and we couldn't get him through with leadership coaching. He kinda just tapped out and was done. That was a hard fire for him because he
Sure.
was so close and so connected. This person had become a really close friend and individual. Just being able to scale the company, sometimes what happens to you in the public eye. I've had the opportunity to work with individuals who have had a really big challenge within the public eye, and things come out and people misperceive it, and they just like they don't know what to do, and they've had to rebuild their image. They've had to rebuild. I had one guy who had someone who had theft within the company, stole 9 figures, wound up really saying like
Really?
crazy things about him and the company, enough that the government started investigating, and the government's done investigating. Now that guy's in trouble because there was
Sure.
nothing really going on, but while all this is happening, it's all going public, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so stressful." Like, you just don't
Right.
know what's going to happen in your business and life, so that's why we also really focus on mindset. Sometimes people are going through a divorce, there's
Mm,
all these crazy things that happen, and I think the cool thing too that I love about mindset is it directly ties into the company and the business, in the sense that, when I'm working with someone and the CEO, the executives on their own mindset, and we're trying to shift our perceptions, and we'll do this in either solo or in our, like, leadership meetings and our offsite meetings and stuff. It's cool to see when they start to shift their perceptions, the clarity that they gain, and then they get new ideas, and they get these new insights, and they
right.
all collaborate in a different way, and it's so fun to see, like, it's so fun to see. So, I feel like we covered so much of the other ones in the beginning of the
Yeah.
podcast, gave a little bit of extra attention to
Right.
mindset.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
No, mindset is critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just thinking of mindset in general. And when when I'm interviewing someone, because I do run a team, um, it's critical because culture, right? We talked heavily about culture today, but also mindset. It brings a unique experience to an interview because yes, I want to hire the person because of their credentials. But let's say if they have the credentials, but the culture and the mindset behind this individual does not align with
Mhm.
our mission, then what? We can't move forward. To me, I would not move forward,
Yeah,
right? Because you need
absolutely.
that right mindset and culture for an organization. So that's very critical. So behavior, imposter syndrome. Okay, Carly, I have some kind of behavior problem. And in the corporate industry, that is a no no, right? Mindset culture, we talked about that, but behavior is different. Dive into that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so behavior is so much fun. So much fun to look at. We do things, no matter what we do, if we're challenging someone or supporting someone, this goes back to our values. Values is really threaded throughout just the entirety of what my husband and I do. It's based off axiology. So it's intrinsically what we're driven to do. It's what inspires us, what fuels us. It's what we perceive like life is and why life is worth living. And you'll usually hear people, if you say like, what do you do or who are you as a person? They're like, I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, like I'm a business owner, right?
Sure.
I love fitness, I'm a yogi, right? And those are the things that are intrinsically driving us. We have about 3 to 5 things that actually we focus on as individuals, and those are the 3 to 5 things we build our world around, right? It's really fascinating. And our
Sure.
behaviors go towards all of these things. So let's say I'm at work, right? And someone challenges my value, right? And my value is around, let's say, finances. I really want to build wealth, right?
Yeah.
And then so someone's challenging my values by saying, no, we shouldn't do this. Like, we can't do this. We need to spend this money. We need to spend this. We need to spend that. And all my brain does is it thinks, well, you're diminishing like my
Right.
capital. You're getting rid of this. Like, I can't get rid of that much. That doesn't feel safe to me because
Sure.
I have a value there. But this person really values maybe innovation or product development. So they're really excited to go in and do that. Right. Now, this
Mm,
could look like an argument, and one person could be frustrated with another person. Maybe they don't treat each other well. Maybe they don't behave well with each other. The truth is that all we're seeing is people reacting and responding to trying to protect themselves, their value systems, and
yeah.
what's important to them. Because if the product development person came and said, hey, I really want to make this product and I think it will do well for the business. Here's the ROI I'm projecting that will
Mhm.
occur based off the data and research that I've gotten from these departments.
Sure.
And this is what I would require to make it. I think that finance person would see it very differently, right? Because what did he do? He didn't just say, like, this is what I think should happen. He said, this is what the data shows. And this is me selling to you and showing you that I'm not going to challenge you and get rid of all the cash flow, get rid of all the money.
Mhm.
Right. And it's funny because that's like an example in business, but it happens. It's easier to see in our relationships, like our romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Like if you have a partner that works a lot, and like works a lot, right? So
Sure.
like I have a client, he works a lot and his wife is I call her the CEO of the house. She's really
Right.
badass. And
Right.
she raises the kid and he's
Yeah.
really badass. And they're both bad. They're all badass. So she's the CEO of the house, he's the CEO of the company, right?
Mhm.
And it'll clash because there's times when she wants him to spend more time with her and the kids, but he's really focused on the business. So
Sure.
when we were working with them together, instead of her being like, you're a bad dad, you're a bad husband, you don't spend enough time
Mhm.
with us and with the kids, and him being like, you're a bad wife, you don't leave me alone, you nag at me, I'm working all
Right,
the time,
right.
I'm supporting you.
Clash. Yeah.
Those will
Yeah.
clash. That's
Right.
the misperception of
Mhm.
these intrinsic values, and we behave and we get frustrated and angry, and our behaviors are coming up that way because she's trying to get her values
Mhm.
fulfilled of family and he's trying to get his values fulfilled of work, right? So to shift that and to shift the behavior, it's not actually making one do the other. It's finding the balance of in between, where how can we actually get him to have his value fulfilled while doing things that she loves?
Right.
So we come up with some really cool solutions. There's some new things that the kids are involved in that actually are like really involved in these different groups and stuff that are mostly it's like a wealthier crowd. They're all like executives and CEOs. So he goes, he hangs out with the family. He's been networking like crazy. He's having a blast to the point where the last call I was on, he's like, I just want to be able to do this more with my kids. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
on it. Like,
That's
let's work this
great.
out. Let's delegate
Exactly.
more at the office.
Right.
So
Right.
here we went from she's nagging me, I'm
Mm.
working hard to like, I just can't wait to spend more time with her. And it wasn't because they were doing the same thing. It's because she found a way where they can do something that inspired both of them. And
Sure.
sometimes she likes to go out to fancy dinners. And so,
Mhm.
and he doesn't want to just go to a fancy dinner. Like he just wants to work. And so she's like, okay, I invited so and so, and she'll collaborate with people he can network with. And it's like, can we go here to dinner on this day? So she's gotten really creative in being like, how do I actually support his values and do something that's inspiring and fulfilling? And it's been really cool to see. It's been really cool to see. And he does the same as well. I've been working with him too to figure out various ways that he can do that as well. So now when he goes and travels for work, if he's going somewhere cool, he'll have some extra time and make sure that he makes it like a family trip, and he adds those cool business dinners and meetings in and different collaborations. So it's cool because now they're getting along, right? So when we think about behavior, we have people who challenge you and support you, but really what it comes down to is we are all trying to get, we're all very selfish in this way, our values fulfilled. We're very
Absolutely.
selfish.
Yeah. That
So
is so
selfish.
true.
We all want to be fulfilled. We all want
Right.
to have meaning and purpose, but then the other person does. And if we keep shooting on them that they should live the way that we want
Mhm.
to and we challenge them, you'll find that their behaviors that come out are going to be very challenging to you.
Yeah.
But when we find that in between, when we can see how when we can create that support with each other and we can create something together that's a win-win scenario for both of us, all of a sudden our behaviors change and we become very supportive,
Yeah.
right? And this is fun too, 'cause, my husband and I, we do this process all the time. But the
Sure.
way and the reason we started our business, we had been dating not that long, like 6
Yeah.
months or
Sure.
something. But was I'm like, "This is not that long to start a business with
Right.
someone." But we sat down and we actually looked at each other's values and we asked each other, how does my value of like he has a value on personal growth, and it was how does my value of personal growth support your value on I love health and beauty, like it's so important to me,
Sure.
health and beauty. And we kind of went back and forth, how does my value on business support this, he loves learning, right? So we went back and forth and we asked each other that question, and we did it a significant quantity of times. And at the end of it, we had an idea to start a business, right?
Sure.
Because we had seen so much collaboration, we found ways that we could actually work together and do things together. That's how powerful like
Right.
understanding your values and someone else's values is and seeing the link. It's so amazing. I love it so much. So we even use it in like conflict and stuff. When
Sure.
executives are in conflict, we're like, you guys, we're just gonna make you
It's a
link your
good thing. Yeah.
values. We're gonna have some fun.
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I'm gonna
Mm.
take a few of those tools away from you, and I
Mm.
wanna talk to my wife today. tonight
Yes.
about it and we'll say, listen, I just interviewed Carly. Let's do this together and I'm going to see where it comes. That's great. That's awesome.
That's fun.
So, Carly, I like to ask my guests one final question. What final thoughts or message you would like to share with the world?
Yeah, that your vision is really important. It's really easy for a vision to get clouded by shoulds. Some people might not even feel connected to a vision. I remember when I first started doing personal development, I had like little to no connection to a vision, and when I started to get rid of those shoulds, get more authentic, understand my values, live by that level of priority, integrate that into my life, it really started to like open up and expand, and it continues to expand to this day. And there's nobody on this planet that like doesn't have access to fulfillment, inspiration, and having a fulfilling life that doesn't burn you out, and that you get excited and every day you wake up, and even on hard days when maybe you didn't get enough sleep, you're like, but I still get to do this, like I get to do that. Right, so we can really create that life diet by design, and our business gets to be a vehicle to fuel that for us. I think that's like one of my favorite things about business. It
Yeah.
fuels that for us while creating all these opportunities for people, whether it be the product or service you have or like how your culture is. Like it's a really beautiful way to impact the world to have a business. So it's pretty cool. And we get to do all that. That's what we get to do. We're very lucky human beings.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Carly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time today. I can't wait to have another conversation with you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here with me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, follow the podcast so you don't miss out on the next episode. Because we're going to keep having real, honest conversations like this. And remember, your influence grows every time you choose courage over comfort. I'm JV. Stay curious, stay consistent, and keep influencing others. If you enjoyed this episode, I had a great conversation with Courtney Inter-Simone, an executive coach who spent 26 years working alongside senior executive leadership teams, helping leaders unlock their potential and navigate today's business challenges. I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 43 of The Influence Exchange, where Courtney shares the truth about imposter syndrome, executive leadership, the importance of building meaningful relationships, navigating career transitions and setbacks, and much more. Thank you for listening and watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.